All right. Hello, everyone. Good morning. I hope you can all see and hear me. Give me a thumbs up if everything's working. My name is Shaylin Stimson. I'm the events manager at Tech Manitoba. So I will be your host this morning for today's virtual event, Rethinking Leadership Beyond Titles and Traditional Career Paths. We respectfully acknowledge that we are meeting virtually on the ancestral lands of Treaty 1 territory, the traditional gathering place of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, and Dene people, and the traditional homeland of the Red River Métis. So real quick, a little bit about Manitoba Women in Tech. So we are formed by the combined forces of Tech Manitoba, New Media Manitoba, and North Forge Technology Exchange. Together with our allies, we're here to support, share experiences, applaud accomplishments, and promote tech activities in a safe, gender-inclusive, and judgment-free environment. We do enforce a code of conduct for all of our events. So in summary, be respectful, be kind, and be nice to each other. If you have any questions or want to look it over, I did pop the link to it in our event chat. Manitoba Women in Tech, we regularly host get-togethers virtually as well as in person. So every month we try to put something on the calendar. Make sure you sign up for our Meetup page, and then you will get the notifications when the next events are, and just check in on it regularly. So this community was established in 2020, and we have now grown to over 1,600 members, which is quite an accomplishment. Today, I'm happy to introduce Janice Kostanek. So she is a seasoned professional with over 20 years of experience in the tech industry. Her past experiences include sales executive for IBM Canada, sales director at Sierra Systems, and career center leader at Great West Life. At her current organization, Skip the Dishes, she has had various roles, including senior tech manager, senior delivery manager, and is currently manager of onboarding and training. She's the co-founder and lead for Skip's Women in Tech community. Janice has a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology and a Master's of Business Administration, Marketing from the University of Manitoba. She's a passion for teamwork, leadership, and coaching. So please help me welcome Janice to the Manitoba Women in Tech. You can click the clap emoji in the bottom corner, and let's welcome Janice to the stage. Perfect. So just give it a couple seconds. Sometimes it's a little slow. There we go. Welcome, Janice.
Hi, everyone. It was nice to chat with a few people beforehand and see some friendly faces and also to meet some new folks. So welcome, everyone, today. I'm going to start off again just with a presentation. I'm just going to get everything going here. And just going to start off. I've had a bit of an introduction here, and I just want to make sure I've got everything is set up here perfectly. There we go. So just getting started off, as I said, my name is Janice Kostelnik. I know quite a few of you, so you may have some interesting recollections of the things I talk about here, but just want to introduce myself a little bit. So again, we've talked about a little bit about what I have, a little bit about me and kind of my past, which I'm very proud of. But I want to share a little bit about myself as a person as well. So I've been married for over 20 years, and I have 2 children. They're kind of grown-up adults right now, but they keep me busy. I love traveling, I love adventures, and I love trying new things. So I'm also very fortunate, which I think is important. I have some great people in my life supporting me. So I think this is kind of the theme that I'm looking at as you go through the presentation is not only are we our career, but it's really important to connect as real people as well. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to go through what I think of as leadership. I've had lots of great experiences. I've met lots of great people, and I'm not going to tell you what like the blueprint for being a great leader or a great person, but I'm hoping you'll draw on some of the comments and some of the experience that I have had, and find out what leadership means to you, and maybe take some points so that you can go and grow yourself as a leader. So, my path started in high school. So, as I mentioned before, I have 20 years in tech, and it started in high school. And I wish I could tell you this was an inspirational story, but I started and I signed up for my computer coding course, and I was the only female in the class at that time. And after the third class, I thought I was doing pretty good. My instructor at the time pulled me aside and said, "You're not going to pass the course." And I was like, "What do you mean? I think I'm doing great. I'm having fun." And he was very adamant to retell me that I was not going to pass the course. So what I did, and again, I said this was not an inspiring course, I withdrew. So I was very fortunate at that time that I had other experiences, and I really look at that one and I look back as one of those points of how do I change things going on in the rest of my career. So, what I'd like to share with you is typically the way we look at ourselves and our careers. And so we can look at our typical CV and our experiences. We can look at when we're talking about our career and look at planning, we look at the titles. So, from an account executive to a sales director and a career center leader. So, these are things when we look at our CV, and a CV is really important, but this is the way that I typically looked at myself in my career. And I think I've changed that a little bit. So this is the way I look at my career, and you can take this from what you need. So I really look at it more from an experience perspective, and I find this is really interesting when I talk during interviews or talk about my career. So I started off in relationship management. I got to understand relationships in a sales role and how to understand business. So that was kind of my first roles as I look at that education. I also learned how to do management in contract management, and I work with different industries in Manitoba. So from that, I look at where I look next in my career. And when I looked at what I wanted to do next, I really looked at, I wanted to do something a little bit different. So I really wanted to focus on the software industry. In my previous role, I kind of sold hardware services, software, but I really wanted to focus on the software area. So my career step was with a software organization. And I also wanted some experience outside of Manitoba. And I got that with my next opportunity. The next one I looked at where I was like, okay, I've got the software thing. What do I want to do next? And I wanted to learn a little bit more about staff augmentation, which is really contracting additional folks in, and what that looked like in contracts from a different perspective. And I also wanted to be part of the leadership of an organization, really guide the direction, look at those decisions, and be part of the planning. And I found a great opportunity that took me there and gave me that experience. And then, as you can see, again, I was looking at, okay, what do I want to do next? And this was kind of part of my thinking. I wanted some people management, and I wanted to be on the client side before I'd been on the vendor side. And here I went and I really looked at what experience do I want next? And I got that. I had some people management skills and on the client side. And then I was able to take that experience and then move into the next people management role at a startup role, which was my career starting at Skip the Dishes. And with Skip, I've had a number of opportunities, and I can see my path where I really look at where I'm learning going, and I really enjoy the teaching and the coaching, and I'm able to bring those interests of mine to lead a global onboarding and training program. So if you look at the different way of looking at my career path, it's not I'm looking for the next title, but I'm always looking at where do I want to grow? What experiences do I want to add to my story? Now, not my kind of my career path. And then I look at things that are outside of my career. So if I look at this little opportunity here, I got to teach intro marketing at the University of Manitoba. And I took it because it's like, okay, needed a little bit of a different experience. I graduated, I wanted to kind of give back. But one of the things, surprise, I learned was my presentation skills. If anybody's been part of a university or an educational group, when I was boarding in a professional setting, everyone kind of sat up and still nodded their heads and very politely acknowledged my speaking. But when you're in a group of students and you're boring, their heads are on the desks, their phones are out, they're leaving. So that really was something that really helped me and grow my presentation skills. And again, an experience that I really found interesting was I became a cabbie stylist. And that is something that really stretched my entrepreneurial skills. I was really excited about giving back to women, making them fit into clothes that made them feel good. If anyone doesn't know, cabbie is um, a clothing supplier. So I was really able to help women feel good in their clothes, feel good about themselves, and I met some amazing women along the way. So that gave me a real interesting experience as well. Another experience I had was with Swim Manitoba. So I joined the board. I started as a board member and I worked all the way up to being the president for a number of 3 years. So I'd led the organization and the swimming community through COVID. That really gave me some experience with policies and with making some really tough decisions as we worked with some of the government officials through the COVID area. So really great experiences there. And then last of all that I'm going to add on to here was my women in tech. And again, starting it up, we just, a coworker of mine looked and we felt a need for bringing together women in tech into a community. And that's given me different skills, which are organization, speaking with leadership, updating stakeholders. And now as a leader for the Canadian group, I'm able to have a team and start bringing those skills and helping those women along their paths to leadership. So I really like looking at this way, and I hope you can take a few tidbits away from this part, which is not only is it the title, but I really like having the experiences and looking at how all of those can help you grow. So we're back to talking about leadership. And I always think leadership is not about a title. And however you go to for your leader, but I really found this one for Brene Brown. And I really respect, I listened to a number of leaders such as yourself for different areas, but I really go back to what she says. It's not a title. You don't have to have manager in your title. It's all about how you think and how you handle yourself and how you want to help others grow in their own roles. So that was really key for me. So I'm just going to share a few things that I learned along the way. And take notes. We do have Q&A at the end, so if there's anything you want to go into, please let me know. But one thing I found was really interesting is looking for role models along the way. Now, a number of folks that I talk to are really adamant about talking about mentors, and mentors are really important. And you're going to find those mentors along the way and build those relationships with people who are key. But I also found that role models are really those people, mentor outside of mentors or sponsorship. And those are the people who kind of demonstrate the skills or the leadership and the leadership traits that I aspire to. I'll give you a few examples. In my sales role, I had a client that was a local manufacturer. And the CEO would come down from his office at times, and I would see him come down to the plant floor. And when he came onto the plant floor, he was talking to the individuals who were the workers. He knew their names. He knew a little bit about their families, and he would often lean his head down when it was safe to really look at what they were doing. And I think the thing that really inspired me for looking at this individual was that he really gained the individual's respect. When he left to go to another organization, there was a number that wanted to follow him to a different manufacturer. And to me, that was something that I really looked at as a leadership trait that I wanted. People really wanted to work with me. Another person that inspired me was a woman that I worked with, and she was on a leadership team that she was the only or one of two women on the leadership team. And what really inspired me about her is it was a tough go for her. She really had to work hard and dig in, and being the only female had to, or one of the only two females, had to really stand up for herself. And I really think that what inspired me about her is despite all of that work and being in that environment, she was true to herself. She really was, um, didn't give up anything about herself. And I really found that I really respected that. And I take that to my leadership. And the last one I'm going to talk about who's a leadership role, and these are just tidbits you can kind of take away as you look at some of the people in your life. But my current leader really inspires me. I think one of the things that I look at in my current leader's leadership style is we'll be in our one on ones, and he'll say things like, "Tell me a bit more. Explain that again. Can you just repeat that back to me?" And that is the kind of leader that I want to do. He even says things like, if I tell him a situation, he'll say, "Do you want me to do something about that, or you just want to talk about it?" And to me, that's something he really is taking the time to listen and to understand me. I also look at when he's with the other leaders in larger meetings, I look at the way he handles situations, the way he talks, the way he inquires. And I always have takeaways about what I can take back to my leadership. So these for me are some leaders that I look at being inspiring and are role models for me. So I really ask you to take a look at who inspires you. So next, after you've kind of looked at who are these role models, to me, it's really important to look at what kind of a leader do you want to be? So when I look at that, it's, sometimes it's been, I want to be exactly like Joe, or I want to be exactly like Sue. And again, it's pulling those skills from individuals that you want to bring to your leadership story. So, to understand myself, what I have done is I am really adamant about getting regular feedback. So, after you've done a piece of work or you've done a project or at the end of the year, go to others and say, "How did I do? What was I really good at? What are some things that I can work on?" And I find this especially at the end of every year. I don't know about you, but I get these, okay, ask for feedback end of the year. And you always go to those people who think who are going to love you and you get along with and are wonderful. But really just don't take that just for the end of year assessment, but really go and ask those people how you can improve and really get that feedback. Another thing I found really interesting to really help understand myself was to go through some of those assessments. I've been through DISC, I've been through Strength Finder, and a few others. And that really gave me some really good information to understand myself and maybe look at it from a different perspective and use that to maybe go back to your feedback people and ask some questions of them. And that's really to understand that and where you want to go with yourself and your own leadership development. So to me, that is really starting to set the path of what am I good at? Are these areas that I want to grow as a leader? And are those areas that I want to work on? And is that something I want to strengthen? Or maybe not. I know things that I'm not good at, and I'm perfectly fine with that. And I accept that. And I know when I'm on a team, I've got to get others to fill that gap. So I really look at where I want to grow and as a professional. So the next I'm going to just talk a little bit as I've got that, you kind of understand what skills and what experience. As I said, I looked at my career. So what experiences or what skills do you want for next? And I really think this doesn't mean you have to go through a job change. So if you look at maybe you want some business experience, and if you want something like business experience, then maybe you can join a board. Maybe you want some organizational experience and you can join something like a Women in Tech or something you have at yours. So when you're looking at adding that experience to your resume or portfolio, really look at where you can find that, um, and how that partners along with your education. So, um, so for me, it's just all those experiences and look for where you can get them. It's really important for me as well. Ask your manager for where you can get those opportunities or someone in your organization. So go and say, I really want some skills in this area and see if there's opportunities that are coming up. They're really good, and it's really good to communicate with your manager where you see, or others in your organization, where you see your career going and where you can grow and how, what sort of roles would fit there. And don't be afraid to ask for opportunities or to be put on special projects. I also find when I'm looking at in this area for what experiences and next steps, if you've been through any interviews, so go and after the interview say, why were you interested in me? What skills did I bring to the table, or what made you go for a second or third interview? So if you kind of bring all those things and just be really inquisitive and start looking at what skills that you will need and put some plans in place. And this is going to change every opportunity. You're always going to be looking ahead and kind of meandering as life takes you where you're supposed to go. Um, One of the things I wanted to talk about here a little bit is imposter syndrome. So, for those who aren't familiar with imposter syndrome, kind of one of the definitions I found is the persistent inability to believe that one's success is not deserved, um, or inability to believe that one's success is deserved or legitimately achieved as a result of one's efforts or skill. And we find that quite a few times in organizations. And it's really demonstrated, where I've seen this over and over again, where typically, and I'm not going to see in every situation, gentlemen will look at a job, and they'll say, "Oh, I meet 6 out of the 10 qualifications. I'm good," and they'll put their resume in, and they're able to really talk things up. Where typically, what women will do is women will say, "Well, I only meet 8 of the 10 qualifications, so I'm not even going to put my name in." Or they'll get the job and they'll say, "Oh my gosh, how did I get this? I don't think I can do it." And it's really important to really just make sure that you understand that you deserve to be where you are selected for the right role, and to put your name in for roles where put your name in for roles where it may be a bit of a stretch, and really identify, even when you're in the interview, that I really find this role interesting. I really think I don't have this skill set right now, but here's where I'd like to grow. It's an area of growth, and here's what I can bring to the role. So I really think that's really important to look at that as you further go along your career path. I'm just looking at my notes here, as relationships are really, really important as you go along the way. So it's amazing that I find right now that people that I met years ago, I may not know them right away. But when you're building relationships, you don't know who you're going to meet in the future. They may be a coworker, they may be a boss. You may need them to network and put something together. But relationships are just really key. Take the time to get know your coworkers. Especially it's hard when we're in a virtual environment. Some of us are working from home, but take the time to get to know them, get to know other people. Book 15 minutes and say, "Hey, I'm just taking a coffee break. Why don't we sit and chit chat over a cup of coffee?" Especially in the virtual environment, we don't have that ability to connect. And I find it's good to get to know them as people. Maybe they have something to offer you, and always good to take those relationships. And it's really important as well, to take part in events like this, which are the networking. So take the time to meet some people who you may not have met otherwise. Again, since we're quite a virtual as well, take the time to sit with someone at a different couch and get to know someone. You'd really be surprised, especially in Manitoba or in Canada, that you're going to find some connections, and it's amazing to get to know these people. So, one of the things I find as well, just going on to one of the last ones, is don't be afraid to ask. So, one of the things I found was that sometimes I'm like, well, I'd really like that opportunity, but I'm not going to say anything. And I don't be afraid to go to your manager or go to someone you want and say, I really would like this opportunity, or I would really like to have this experience. So if something comes up, I'm looking towards a tech manager role and I know you're on vacation. Can I back you up so I can gain some of those skills so that I'll have that experience and even see if I like that type of role? So we often sit and we don't say anything. I'm not a very good mind reader and I can't expect my teammates to be mind readers either. So it's really good to open up and ask in a polite way. And I also find it's really good when I talk about the leaders is ask, why did you answer something that way? Why did you, and not in a demeaning way, but I really like the way you responded to that question. I really like the way you did that. How did you gain your presentation skills? How did you gain that confidence? So really make sure that you are not afraid to go out and ask, and people are in general really happy to respond and have that conversation with you. So that's just a little bit when I look at don't be afraid to ask. One of the things I find as well is as a leader, I've always made it my mantra is to have my employees back. And if I'm on a team, to have their back as well. We stick together, we talk to each other, and it's really important just to kind of know as well in your organization or in your extended network, who are your go to people who are going to answer things honestly, those people that are going to answer those questions and give you really positive feedback. So just to understand and make sure you have the back of others as well. I'll talk about a group that I have that is my book club, and they're a group of friends that we're connected professionally and on a personal level. I have to laugh because it's book club, and we have one member who doesn't read books, but we have each other's back. If we have any issues, we openly talk to each other, and if I ever need anyone, that's one of the groups that I go to with any questions. So hopefully you have other people that have your back and you're connected in that way to give back as well. And then I think one of the last things that I look, because it's not all rosy and it's not all positive stuff happens. I remember it was with one organization and they were reorganizing, and they were reorganizing, and I had to work through a lot of people that lost their jobs. And at the end of the day, I've been in places where I've lost my jobs as well. I've also been in positions where I've been with coworkers where we just do not click and we do not get along, and I haven't had positive situations. And I kind of say to myself, okay, I'm getting myself 24 hours or whatever time that you need to process and go through whatever you need to go through. But when you're done that, really take the opportunity to look back and learn. I learned those things where I just look at sometimes when a reorganization happens, I always say, I'm on the wrong line of an Excel spreadsheet. So, how do I just go and I take that opportunity to look back what I've learned and really look at as how do I take my career path in a different direction and where do I want to go? If I'm with an area where I just didn't get along with a person, either look at how do I change my behavior? Do I want to change my behavior? Is this a learning opportunity to deal with this type of individual? And are there some ways I can learn from them? So stuff happens. It's not all rosy. And you're going to have those, I'm going to say, those special learning opportunities all along the way. So those are some of the things that I look back and I've learned along my way. Again, I don't expect anybody to take them all and kind of have a blueprint, but hopefully you found a few things on my conversation that you can take. And I would say that there's a few things that I look at really guide me overall. Anybody who's had me speak or listen to me before, there's things that I have. And I always look and I revisit things that are really key and important to me. I always say to myself, am I learning? And am I growing? And am I having fun? And if I'm not doing all of those things, then what can I do to change it? So I'm just going to close off before you go to Q&A. A few things that I look at. I'm always looking at learning and looking at different people and how to look at things differently. And I just wanted to share some of the books that I am looking at right now. So things that are important to me right now is I'm rereading Presence by Amy Cuddy. She's got some other books out on leadership and other things as well. That really helped me when I'm in a group of people. Also, when I'm looking for airspace on an airplane or at a hockey game. And I also really like Karen Gordon, who recently wrote Three Chairs. She's Canadian and is just a firecracker. And both of these have lots of talks on TED Talk, YouTube, etc. So take the books that are important to you, maybe giving you a different perspective. But if you're a reader like me, then love to hear your suggestions on other good books as well. So with that, I really just wanted to thank your time. Just a few little inspirational quotes that I live by, and I think we're going to go on to Q&A if there's any questions.
Okay. Thank you so much, Janice. Thank you for sharing your story. I'm sure it resonated with lots of our attendees, some of your experiences that you've had. We still have some time to answer some questions. So please feel free to add them in the Q&A tab. You'll see it on the right side of your screen. So just pause the chat. There's a Q&A. You can also upvote questions that are your favorite. So if you see any that you like, and if you're a little bit shy, you can ask the question anonymously. So nobody has to know who's even asking the question. It looks like, yes, right now they're all anonymous. So no need to be shy. There's no silly questions either. Kate, so the one with the most votes, do you have any advice on leveraging relationships without making it feel like you're always asking for something?
So, great question. And I think the thing is, when you're leveraging relationships, you shouldn't always be or starting off with always asking for something. It's relationships are getting to know each other and also understanding where you can give back and having those conversations. So you shouldn't always be asking for something. Sometimes it's about having that connection and just having those conversations. So I know it was interesting when an interesting lesson I had a long time ago at the beginning of my career is my manager at that time said, go and network and meet everyone in the room. And it was really forced. And it was like, hi, my name is this and I'm selling this. And that's not what relationships are all about. Really take, and everyone's different if you're extroverted or introverted or what you are, really take the time to get to build that relationship first and give and get that trust and then I think anything you're asking for will come a little bit later. Relationships are about asking. Don't afraid to ask if you need something. So but make sure you really have that mutual respect and relationship first off.
Yes, absolutely. I also think it's so important to like give back, like you were saying, like help them so they can help you down the road. Um, have you ever had a role model that let you down or did something that you don't agree with? How do you navigate that?
Yeah, I had a role model that took a path that I didn't agree with, and that's their choice. That is their choice, and I really respected it. And and I think one of the things that I did when I look at that individual is I just looked and I evaluated, is this something that I want to bring into my leadership, into my career and my style?
Mhm.
And it wasn't. So I still have that relationship with them because there's other things I can draw on, but it's that experience that I really purposely put aside as something that I didn't want to follow.
It almost seems like the perfect opportunity to learn from their mistakes as well. So if you already know that's something you don't agree with, you can just look at that and be like, okay, I wouldn't have made that decision.
And I agree with you. It's making that conscious decision of that's not the type of leader I'm going to be. And I think that's really important as I talk about we all don't have to be the same leader. Everyone is going to be different, and everyone is going to be different leaders. but is true to being what type of leader you want to be.
Exactly. Okay, so you talked a lot about assessing like your experiences and what sort of skills you want to add and what you want to learn. So, how frequently would you recommend assessing what experiences you want to add to your career path? And like, how often do you look back and think about what you want to learn and what your next steps could be?
Yeah, you know what? That's a really good question. And it was a really interesting experience that I had. So most recently, um, I always look at the role that I'm in and um, have I learned everything that I can in that role? So it could be 6 months, it could be 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the things I'm really adamant about in my career that I've learned is don't try to hop too quickly, right? Really take the time to learn and make sure that role or that career is giving you everything you can. So it's going to be about different, but it's not about going as fast as you can. It's not getting the advancing through the titles as fast as you can. It's making sure you've gained the experiences that you want and learned what you can from that role. When it comes to my learning, growing, and having fun, I do that every year. So kind of at the end that I do, and so that's kind of my yearly assessment. But I personally am not a fan of skipping jobs unless you just know it's not the right fit for you.
Right. And I feel like even if it is a job that's not the right fit, that's when there's more opportunity to learn too sometimes. So,
You know, and it's really interesting. I totally agree with you. And I'll give you an example. I had a young lady who came to me who I'm mentoring, and she came to me and she said, "It's the beginning of the year, and one of my people said, 'Which project do you want to work on?' And none of these projects really interested me."
mm,
And I told her, I said, "I'm going to give you a different way of looking at it. I don't want you to look at whether the projects interest you, but I wanted you to look at these projects and see if there's a skill set or a relationship or something that you can grow from each of these projects.
mm,
So when the opportunity comes up for things, just a different way of looking at things and adding to your skill set."
amazing advice. This next question says, "Thank you for the amazing presentation. Uh, how do you overcome imposter syndrome? Or maybe some advice on steps to take to address this?"
You know, that's a big question. That's a really
Absolutely.
I know in Women in Tech, we have looked at imposter syndrome for quite a few in a few different areas. And I always look at podcasts on all of those. Um, I really think it goes back to understanding your skill set and really building in your confidence and understanding these are the things that I'm good at, and
Mhm.
really looking at each experience and looking those feedback and dwelling on these are the things I'm really good at and this is what I'm going to bring to the opportunity. So I could go on and on about imposter syndrome, but really those are some things that taking steps is looking into it, understanding what your strengths are, and really looking at building and understanding how strong you are.
Absolutely. And I think there's also like a little bit of magic in the fake it till you make it thing too. If someone's giving you the opportunity and they believe in you, just embrace it.
Absolutely.
Um, okay, we still have a few more questions, but we have a little bit more time. Any suggestions on how to stand out in showing up with your leadership skills? Yeah, so you already are in a leader position. How do you stand out? Like, what can you do to set yourself apart? Oh, oh no, I think we might be losing Janice here. Well, okay. Well, I do think we answered quite a few questions. Um, I'll give it a couple more minutes to see if she reconnects. I'm hoping you all can still see me. And thanks, Janice, for the amazing presentation. I will be sending her a message after this too. Real quick before we leave for the day, I know we still have a few more minutes left. I wanted to let you know about our next upcoming event. So you can mark your calendar. Wednesday, February 28th is our next in-person event. It's going to be with Jennifer Chang from Amazon Web Services. She'll be joining us to discuss pitching better, overcoming bias and fundraising. So this is going to be a breakfast event in person, 7:30 a.m. till 9 a.m. So you can pop in before your workday gets started. We're going to be at the Delta downtown, and there is a complimentary hot breakfast. So the only catch here is you have to RSVP in order to attend. Please don't RSVP unless you are 100% sure you can attend. As I mentioned, there will be a breakfast involved, so we will be saving a plate for you. And it is going to be a really great way to network in person. This event is going to be part of the very first Manitoba Tech Week, so also make sure that you check that out. It's going to be a week-long celebration of tech across our province, so that's February 26th to March 3rd. I've popped some links to register for the event in the chat, so make sure you check that out. And it looks like Janice is back.
Yeah, sorry, I had an internet glitch there. So
No problem. That happens. I had a few minutes to go over some announcements of our next events for people to attend. So I believe, yeah, we had left off on the question if you have any suggestions on how to stand out in showing your leadership skills.
yeah, I guess it depends on, I would say, again, be yourself, as I was just talking about a little bit, but why do you want to stand out? And what, and I guess that's the key of really understanding why you want to stand out. Um, so is it that you are looking at moving ahead in your career, or why you want to stand out? I think that would, before I go any further, I think that's the key thing of why you want that. You'd have to really understand that.
Absolutely. Okay. So another question, sort of piggybacking off the imposter syndrome one. How do you help others overcome imposter syndrome? I guess as sort of like a mentor or in your strong relationships, when somebody else is experiencing this, how do you support them?
Um, it's interesting because I've had a number of people come to me and ask. So I think there's a few things that I found is really get yourself recognized as someone open to talk to and give some honest feedback, and building those trusted relationships where I've had some individuals come and say, there's a job coming up, let me talk to you about it. And I'm able to really talk to them. So just build that trusted relationship. I think the other thing that's really important is as a leader is when when you're working with someone, don't be afraid to say good job. If you're done, if I've done a piece of work or a project or even just anything with someone, I'll say, just want to thank you. You did a really good job at this. And just saying thank you is a thank you, but I really make the extra effort to say, you really did a good job at this. And I find that really just gives them that little bit of knowledge of what they did and that little bit of confidence. And if you are being asked for feedback in a positive way, give some honest feedback and make it really constructive. And I find by giving everyone that, letting them know what they do really good job, or even here's a job. Have you ever thought about that? I really think you'd be good at it because of these skills that they're asking for. And you've demonstrated this in these projects that I've worked for. So if you're in the position to do that or be their sponsor, for any sorts of jobs, then those are some tips that I would say just to help with everyone in their imposter syndrome. And it really helps you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say that ties back to the previous question of how to stand out as a leader. And I think just like that positive reinforcement and encouragement of your team when they are doing things well, or even colleagues, they don't have to be people under you. Absolutely. Okay, last question. This one's a little bit different. In what ways do you see a person's cultural background influence the perception of effective leadership?
That's a really great question. At Skip, and I'd say just about everywhere, we're multicultural, and how it affects you. You never want to change the way you are. And again, it goes back to bringing what type of leadership that you want to bring to the table and how you are without changing yourself unless there's something that you feel you want to. Everyone's different. And again, the cultures bring different aspects to it all the time. So it's really understanding it's not only cultural, but it's you and as an individual, what it brings and what leadership means to you.
Absolutely. And obviously, that's something we advocate a lot for with Manitoba Women in Tech. The more diversity, the better. The more experiences and different ways of looking at things, I think only builds a stronger team. So,
I,
completely agree.
I think just based on that, one of the things that I found is again, it goes back to the ask. If there's someone who's um, wanting to do things in a certain way, going ask them, you did this way, or you do this way. I notice as well, like there's a number of folks at our organization from a certain culture, and they really start off with all the time, "How are you? How was your day?" And that is really important to them. So I make sure when I'm back in conversations with them or I look at their leadership, that's just really important. And they bring that cultural, that wonderful cultural aspect to our group.
Yeah, that's very insightful. Um, I think that's about all we have time for questions today. I know everyone sort of has to get back to work around the 1 o'clock mark. So thank you again, Janice. It was such a pleasure to have you join us and all of our members. Thank you for sharing your experiences so openly and giving such great advice. We really appreciate it.
Thanks all. Have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, and feel free to stick around. We're going to be able to network until about 1 o'clock here. So you feel free to go back. We'll go back to the tables. Feel free to jump around and network with different people and share experiences. So thanks so much for joining us, and hopefully we'll see you in February.